All right. There was an objection on the floor. What was the question? What was the objection? I'm sorry.
Yeah, where were you guys at?
What was the question? What was the objection? And then I dropped my coffee. So.
Would you like me to answer both, Your Honor?
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine.
The counselor asked the distance between the individual in the photo and the person taking the photo. I objected to speculation because Mr. Gordon was not the one to take these photos.
I don't need a rebuttal. I'm going to sustain that, and here's why. We don't know what kind of camera they were using. We don't know if they had a mega zoom in. We don't know if it was a drone. There could be 1,000 different ways because he wasn't there exactly when that happened. There are different ways you can go about this, counselor. I have all the confidence in your creativity, but for this particular specific question, I'm going to sustain the objection from the state.
Okay. Let me think for a second here.
No worries, take your time. Someone called me and woke me up with 17 emails saying, "Hey, Samantha, can you come do this?" So I should be in bed because it's 2 a.m., but here I am.
I also did not expect
I
this
shouldn't
to
be
take
here
so
either,
long.
Your Honor.
All right. Based upon the evidence marked photos of handoff.
What?
Could you rephrase the question?
Yes, 1 second. Okay. When Mr. Escarra was arrested on scene, what illegal items did he have?
Objection lacks foundation.
I would actually agree with that. I think you can get there, counselor. I'm going to sustain the objection, but let's move on.
Like, okay, well, foundation of it would be, where was Mr. Escarra arrested?
Objection asked and answered.
I don't think that specific question was asked, at least what I have, so I'm going to overrule that.
Outside Autos Vados. Vados Autos? The mechanic shop.
Okay. What illegal items did he have on him?
If I
Objection leading.
How's this leading, counselor?
I'd like to change my objection to lacks foundation.
I partially agree with you, but for the emphasis of time, we'll just skip the 2 or 3 questions that we know that the counselor can get there for, so overruled on that portion.
If I recall correctly, after he ran from police and got arrested, he was found with joints on his person.
Joints on his person.
I think that's right.
Objection speculation. Gordon was not the one to search the suspect.
He had access to the record, the arrest record.
State, do you have a final rebuttal?
Gordon's here as a layperson, not as a DA.
Gordon, do you remember the entire list in its specificity?
God, no. I wasn't the guy
Okay.
that arrested him.
Yeah, the court will be able to reference the specifics that's listed in the report there. So we won't have him answer that question. I'm just going to sustain on general principle.
Okay. Uh, you said he had marijuana on him. Where are these possessions?
Objection. A misstatement of testimony. I believe this was all stricken. Am I correct?
Most of it was stricken. I'm not going to sustain on. I'm going to overrule for that portion, but we've already covered an umpteenth amount of times, counselor, that he doesn't know anything specifically about the possessions. He wasn't part of the arrest or where these specific custodial questions are coming from. He's called in
Your
as a
Honor,
late. Uh-huh.
He was the one that posted the case
Okay.
onto the docket.
Gordon, do you know where the possessions are?
No, I'm not even sure if I'm right about the fucking weed thing. I'm going off memory from when it was 3 a.m. and I got ADHD like a motherfucker.
Okay. There you go, counselor.
Did he have the keys to the Buffalo on him?
Objection. Calls for speculation.
I'm going to sustain that. We, again, went over the specifics on his possessions. We're going to move on away from any of the possessions that were on scene. Gordo wasn't the arresting officer, he wasn't the searching officer, and very clearly he doesn't remember anything from the report. So you're just going to continue to get the same answers over and over, counselor.
Where was Mr. Escarra's Buffalo parked?
Outside Vato's Autos.
Outside Vados Autos?
Yeah.
Was Mr. Escarra's Buffalo parked on private property?
I don't know.
Was it parked on the street or inside of Vados Autos?
Objection. Compound question.
Yes, it is a compound question, but I'm just going to overrule for the sanctity of time.
Neither.
Neither. So where was it?
Parked in a parking lot.
Did they have a search warrant for this vehicle?
They didn't need to. He tried to run into the vehicle, and might have like ditched something.
Yes or no?
Something. No, I don't need to answer the questions like you're phrasing it, dog. I'm answering your question. Didn't need to.
Yes or no, was this situation exigent? If the keys to the vehicle are on Mr. Escarra.
Objection. Counselor is testifying.
I'm going to overrule on testifying, but I'm going to object from the bench on opinion of a layperson, as well as essentially ask and answer for all the other questions. He has no idea what possessions were on Mr. Escarra. We've asked that question multiple times.
Was this situation exigent?
You'd have to ask a judge for that, dog.
Calls for legal conclusion. Objection.
I'm going to sustain that.
Can I rebut?
Sure, but it's not going to change my objection.
Okay. My cause of the questioning is because he was there acting as a DA for the police force, giving them, DA advice.
Okay, and you've called him as a layperson. Objection is still sustained. Please move on.
Did officers search Vados Autos?
No. Not that I recall.
Did you or officers on the scene threaten to shut down Vados Autos if they did not comply with a search of the property?
Objection. Lacks foundation.
Defense rebuttal.
The foundation is he was at Bados Autos.
I think you could have elaborated there, but I will overrule for the sanctity of time.
I certainly didn't. I don't know if anyone else did. I was in the cruiser the entire time.
How much time were you roughly on the scene at Mirror Park before you moved to Southside Garage?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Why did you go to this garage?
I was a passenger in the car.
Okay. Was any communication there about heading to the garage?
I would imagine so. I don't recall specifically anything.
Did you write search warrants for the vehicles parked up at the Southside Garage?
I did not.
In your job as a district attorney, have you ever written a search warrant?
Objection, relevance.
What's the relevance of this questioning, counselor?
It has to deal with the search warrant of the investigation.
Okay, and you've called him as a lay witness specifically for the charges at hand on there.
Uh,
I'm gonna sustain the line of questioning.
These would be in direct actions that he would have taken.
Okay, I sustain the objection. Let's move on.
Why, to your personal opinion, do you believe exigent circumstances exist in relation to a warrantless search on the vehicles at the Southside Garage?
Supreme Court rulings.
Okay, that's vague. What were the exigent circumstances at that time based upon the Supreme Court rulings?
The likelihood that it could be moved. There's an automobile exception for searches of vehicles that have a high likelihood of being able to be, just moved. I think it just kind of covers all of them. His gang members were aware that he was being pinched. It's in a publicly accessible garage. Police officers to move in to make sure that evidence can't be tampered with, destroyed, or otherwise moved. Due to it being a vehicle, and the ability for it to be moved is far different than that of a house.
Why were his gang members aware of this?
They arrived on scene at 4 a.m. when he was getting arrested.
How would they have known about his arrest?
I can't tell you that one.
Was there a radio involved?
I don't recall. I don't know.
Okay. Did officers barricade off entries with vehicles to the garage?
Huh?
Objection, confusing. Lacks
Did
foundation.
officers
Oh, hold on. Gordo, do you understand the question?
No.
Objection vague is sustained. If you could just rephrase, please.
The entrances to the garage, were they barricaded by officers?
Objection, still vague.
It's not vague. They were there at the garage, and
Go-
there's entrances to
What
the garage.
Hold on, guys. Gordo, do you understand the question?
No.
Okay, repeat the question one more time for me, counselor.
Did officers barricade off entrances with vehicles to the garage?
Gordo, did you see them block anything towards in and out of the garage, like officers that showed up on scene?
From what I remember, there was only one officer that was at the garage.
Okay, did you see them barricade anything, like
No.
doors? Okay. Does that answer,
No.
does that answer your question, counselor?
Yes.
Perfect.
Did officers have to stop anyone from entering the garage?
I don't know.
Did you, prior to the search, have evidence of anyone else having keys to the vehicles in question to drive them away with.
I typically don't
Object-
get evidence to anything.
What's the objection?
I withdraw.
Okay.
Did you leave the scene in one of Mr. Escarra's vehicles?
Objection, relevance.
What's the relevance of this question, Counselor?
It's my client's vehicles, and if he was there at the time in my client's vehicle.
Okay. But how is that relevant to the specific charges rather than a civil litigation that you're trying to prep for?
It's relevant based upon chain of custody, the evidence within inside. It's relevant for all kinds of reasons.
Perfect. Gordo, did you touch any of the evidence?
No.
Okay. Did you even think about touching the evidence?
No.
Okay. That should answer all your questions regarding that. I'm going to partially sustain.
Not even an intrusive thought.
Nah, I don't fucks with meth like that, dog.
Cool.
It's actually pretty good. Never mind. We'll talk about meth later.
Heroin way better, yo. On God.
What? No,
hurt.
absolutely
No.
not.
Ew.
That's
Than
worse.
meth?
Your teeth
No.
fall out. What are you
Oh,
talking about?
I was talking about the high. The high
Meth
way
makes
better.
your
What?
teeth
Heroin
fall
the
out.
best
I've
high.
seen Train Spotting. No, thank you.
No. I meant like just on the high alone, dog.
Yeah, but the after effects. That's like saying Never mind. You know what? Never.
That is-
We
that
have
is
a
their problem.
we have a deposition.
All right. What vehicle did you leave in from the garage?
Police car.
Where did you go to?
Objection, relevance.
How's this relevant, Counselor?
It's seeing how he entered and left the scene.
But how's that relevant to the charges pressed on your client?
Because it tells me where his vehicle went, how it was processed, and
Okay, which those are all civil questions that you can ask if you believe that there was a violation, which you could sue them for. But we're focused on the charges being pressed criminally. How does this question affect the criminal liability and charge pressed against your client?
the next area that they went to, I believe, is the hotel for another raid. So
Okay.
it's building foundation to the hotel.
Okay, how about we just skip to, because all the other questions associated with that specific portion would be a civil case, which if you're trying to file a civil case, if you believe that his rights were violated, then you can file a motion to stay or motion for an injunction until the outcome of a civil case. But concerning the criminal case, I'm going to sustain as far as relevance is concerned. If you have any questions concerning this specific raid, we can just jump over there.
Okay, let's jump over there.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Did you help someone file a search warrant for my client's hotel?
No.
Were you present as officers were shutting down the entrance to the hotel?
No.
When did this occur in relation to the search of the cars?
What?
When was your presence at the hotel? When did this occur in relevance to the search of the cars?
After.
Give me a time frame.
I don't know.
Was there exigent circumstances in relation to the hotel room?
Objection, opinion of a layperson calls for legal conclusion.
I would agree. I sustain on both those objections.
Your Honor.
Were any other hotel rooms outside of Mr. Escarra's searched?
Not that I remember. Can we get a heat check on how much more questions? Is that possible?
Sure, yeah, counselor. How long do you how many further questions do you have for Mr. Pantalones?
I have a few regarding the hotel scene.
Okay, perfect. I'm gonna ask a couple questions from the bench, and counsel, you'll be able to tell me if these answer your questions or not. Gordo, were you at the hotel?
Yes.
Did you go inside the hotel?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, feel free to ask any of the questions. Those sounds like that. Those two answers will be relevant to any of the questions you have. Please proceed, counselor.
What official duty did you have at the hotel?
What do you mean?
As a DA, what official duty were you operating as at the hotel?
Objection, opinion of a layperson. He's called here today not as a DA, but as Mr. Gordon in his glory as he is.
State, while I agree that he's been called as a layperson, this is exceptionally relevant specifically to what was happening, and if any evidence was touched in the hotel, since we only touched on the evidence previously, I'm going to overrule because I want to hear the answer to this question.
Yes, Your Honor.
Oh, I didn't touch any evidence. Most evidence is there to make sure everything's done right.
Did you enter the hotel room?
I don't think I did. I remember being outside in the hallway writing up a search warrant.
You previously testified that you have written no search warrants for this case.
Say that again?
Did you not previously testify that you've written no search warrants for this case?
No, that is
Objection,
not what I
misstatement
said.
of testimony.
Well, what did you say?
Hold
Gordo?
on. State, why is this a misstatement? I want to hear from you.
The question specifically asked if he helped, and Gordon said no to the specific question if he helped.
Let me
question-
confirm. Hold on. I'm gonna overrule. Just phrase it a little bit differently, counselor.
What search warrants did you write that day, Gordo?
That's a good question.
I think it was just the hotel room warrant.
After you left the garage, did you head to MRPD or the hotel?
Objection, compound question,
Uh,
speculation.
yeah. Well, I would sustain on compound question. Can you break that up there for me, counselor? Thank you.
Before heading to the hotel, were you at MRPD?
Say that again?
Before heading to the hotel, were you at MRPD?
I believe so, yeah.
How long were you there?
I don't know.
What did you do while you were there?
Fucked about.
Okay.
How long were you and the
Yes, in a
officer fucking
deposition right
about?
now.
What did you say?
How often do you fuck about on duty?
Objection, relevance.
I'll just clarify from the bench. Gordo, what do you mean by fucking about?
I don't know, just waiting for the shit to keep going. They gotta fucking like go back and forth from the car and shit. And there's a whole bunch of other shit the cops is doing.
Okay, so you were just basically just waiting.
Waiting, yeah.
Okay.
Was it for a a substantial amount of time?
Objection
Substantial.
leading.
It doesn't imply the answer to the question. You and I both know Mr. Pantalones could skirt around that if he wanted to. So for this witness, I'm going to overrule.
Like I've said before, it was 4 a.m. A couple weeks ago. I got ADHD. I don't know how long we were there before we moved to the hotel, dog.
Do you normally apply this much attention to large cases?
What?
Do you
Objection
normally apply
relevance.
this much attention to large cases?
Okay, counsel, there's objection on the floor.
I don't get the question.
Okay, that's fine. There's objection on the floor. Defense, why is this relevant?
90% of his answers has to deal with his ADHD.
Okay. But how is that relevant to the specific charges at hand pressed against your client?
Trying to apply the attention to detail given within his report.
Okay, I have a question from the bench then. Defense, are all or most of these questions written by First Temple?
No.
Okay. I'm just going to object generally from the bench. It's not a relevant question to the charge at hand. Let's move on.
So as the original car was processed, that car was taken based upon exigent circumstances, correct?
Objection. Counselor is testifying.
How is he testifying, State?
He's stating his own version of facts of the case, and sorry, I'm really tired.
You're fine. Do your best. And
yeah,
if your
he-
best,
he
if your
just-
best is
he-
20%, your best is 20%. You got this.
That's just stuff that Mr. Gordon has not said about this case, and the counselor is stating it.
Rebuttal, defense.
The basis of the question deals with them taking a car out of the garage without a search warrant, implying exigent circumstances, which he did testify of.
Exigent.
Okay, Mr. Pantalones.
Sorry, dog. A pet peeve.
Yeah, it's fine. I understand where you're getting at. Obviously, the judge will be able to take this in accordance. Let's just. This is not the right witness for these questions. You're gonna be you're gonna be needing to ask the people who are directly involved and made the decisions. I'll ask a question from the bench. Gordo, did you instruct the officers to do any of that, or did they do it on their own?
Do any of what, Your Honor?
Did they pull this vehicle out of the garage on their own, or did you tell them to do that?
Oh, I didn't give him any guidance on this one.
Okay, perfect. That should answer.
This is a Randy Wrangler operation,
Okay.
dog. I just kind of sit back.
Does that answer any of your questions, defense counsel?
Yep.
Okay.
As a DA, what advice did you give them during that day regarding the Escarra case?
I don't recall. Normally, it's about penal code, how things apply, what kind of articulation might be needed inside of like a search warrant, but they didn't need to do it because I was operating on that one. Shit like that. Asking questions about previous rulings. But that night, that was a well-oiled machine.
Okay. And to clarify, when you left the garage, you were in a police car?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's all the questions we have, Your Honor.
You want to just double check for me, make sure you have everything covered? I just want to make sure we
Yep.
get everything out on direct as much as possible.
Almost there, Your Honor.
No, it wasn't you. I was looking at Siobhan's pants, respectfully.
Okay, I got a BBL.
Yeah, I
She's
see
still
that.
Wet. She was in the hot tub earlier.
I think they dried off because they're cargo pants.
Springwell your eye.
Huh?
Well, what was your eye, dog?
What do you? I don't know. Tired, sleep, water.
Oh yeah, I just making sure
Hey,
that.
Gordo, are you can you stick around
Husband.
after this real quick to do a bail hearing for the
Hi,
Bob and Bob hut?
Samantha.
Okay, I have some more
Bob and
questions.
Bob.
By the way,
Okay.
Should be able to, yeah. I mean, but it's
okay.
been. I mean,
I
this
wasn't
over
sure
and
if this
shit?
is past your bedtime. I just mean, you know.
Oh, no. 1 more hour, Your Honor. 1 more hour.
Really?
It's getting to that time.
10 p.m. Central Standard Time, dog.
It's getting to that time.
Cool.
All right, perfect.
Hey, at about that time.
All right, guys. Defense, you said you had a couple more questions. Feel free to proceed.
When you and Wrangler left the garage the first time, where did you take the brown van?
MRPD.
What did you do in your second visit to the garage?
Don't remember.
Why did you go back to the second garage? The garage a second time?
Objection vague. What garage is this?
The garage we've been talking about?
Gordo, do you know what garage they're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Overruled.
it's
Please
fine,
answer
that's
the
fine,
question.
That's fine.
Okay,
I
sorry, Your Honor.
Good. I think they get his cruiser.
Defense, did you have any other questions?
That's all.
Okay, perfect. We'll pass it over to the state. State, Cross, your witness.
The state has no questions for this witness.
Thank you.
Perfect. All right, we will conclude this deposition at 6:56 p.m. PST on the 28th of January, 2025.